Hi, everyone. Merry Christmas. I dearly hope that this finds you doing well and having a great day, remembering the reason for this day, that hope came into the world in a very humble way to extend peace on earth and goodwill to men. If today is hard for you for whatever reason, and I know that it is, a difficult day for a lot of people. Some people have lost family members this year. Some people have lost jobs this year. Some people have received cancer diagnoses this year. It's been a rough year for a lot of people. So if you're kind of not feeling it today, that's okay too. And I just wanted to let you know that you're not alone. That people are standing with you, even though you can't see everybody. There is a world full of people that really hope the best for you, want the best for you. If you would like to reach out to me by email, I'll be checking my email all day. You can email me at mindsetmatterspodcast1, that's the number 1, at gmail.com, or hop on over to the webpage at mindsetmatterspodcast1.com, and you can reach out through that venue as well. And I would love to hear from you. I really think about everyone who is on the listening end of the podcast every time that I'm on here. So please reach out. The second thing I wanted to remind you of is that although your story is painful right now, it's not the end of your story. The way you feel today won't always be the way you feel. As difficult as it is to imagine in these moments, there will be holidays when lightness returns to you and days when you start to dream again and feel more like yourself. So just accept where you are for today. Don't feel alone. And light a candle and just look at it and notice how one small light can dispense the darkness in a whole room. And that's very much like it is at Christmas time when we think about how Jesus came into the world. Just one small baby brought hope to the entire world. So feel what you feel, but try to remember that the meaning of this day is hope, that we all have a hope for our future. Okay? And so I hope you enjoy the episode today. It's really kind of a mix of things, some poetry, some short stories, and at the end, a song. So I hope you enjoy the episode. Unwrap the magic of the season with us in this special Christmas episode, where we explore the joy, wonder, and heartwarming stories that make this time of year truly extraordinary. Join us as we unwrap the gift of inspiration and share tales that illuminate the true spirit of Christmas, reminding us all that the greatest presents are the ones that come from the heart. Get ready for a sleigh ride of emotions as we dive into the enchanting world of Christmas and discover the power of kindness, love, and the timeless traditions that unite us all during this festive season. Welcome to Mindset Matters, the courage to continue, the podcast where we explore the extraordinary lives of ordinary individuals who have overcome immense challenges and emerged as beacons of inspiration. I'm your host, Lisa Sinclair, and today we share a day of joy of the light that came into the world to bring peace on earth and goodwill to men. This is episode 26, The Courage to Believe and Hope, the Hero Heart of Christmas. At Christmas time, we celebrate the profound message of hope that Jesus brought into the world, a hope that transcends time and resonates in the hearts of people across the globe. In the humble manger of Bethlehem, a divine light illuminated the darkness, and with the birth of Jesus, a beacon of hope emerged for the world. His life, teachings, and the love he shared brought a transformative promise of redemption, forgiveness, and eternal grace. As we gather around the festive lights and exchange gifts, let us also reflect on the enduring gift of hope that Jesus bestowed upon humanity. His arrival marked a pivotal moment, infusing the world with the assurance that no matter the challenges we face, a brighter dawn awaits. The Christmas story reminds us that in the midst of uncertainty, a guiding star leads us toward a future filled with compassion, joy, and the promise of eternal life. Please enjoy the following short stories. Our first story is a true story. It's called The Story of Silent Night. Seated at the weathered organ, Father Joseph Moore extended his fingers over the keys, shaping the chords with deliberate precision. Inhaling deeply, he pressed down on the keys, but to his dismay, there was no sound. Undeterred, he lifted his fingers and attempted once more, yet only the hush of silence reverberated through the church. Father Joseph shook his head in resignation. It proved futile. The pipes had succumbed to rust, and the bellows were tainted with mildew. For months, the organ had emitted strained wheezes, gradually growing quieter. Father Joseph had clung to the hope that it would endure until the arrival of the organ builder in the spring for much-needed repairs. Unfortunately, on December 23rd of 1818, the organ reached its breaking point. St. Nicholas Church, on the eve of Christmas, would now be devoid of its customary musical accompaniment. Exhaling a sigh, Father Joseph pondered the idea that a brisk walk might lift his spirits. Donning his overcoat, he ventured out into the crisp night. His breath billowed in white puffs before him as moonlight danced on the snow-kissed trees and houses of Oberndorf village. Traversing the snow-laden streets, Father Joseph made his way to the outskirts of the quaint Austrian town, ascending the path that led up the mountain. Perched high above Oberndorf, Father Joseph observed the Salzach River gently meandering past St. Nicholas Church. During the spring, as melting snow cascaded down the mountains, the river would swell within its banks, its waters reaching the foundation of the church. It was this moisture from the flooding river that had contributed to the mildew and rust afflicting the plagued organ. Gazing upon the Austrian Alps, Father Joseph took in the brilliance of the stars illuminating the tranquil night. A thought struck him. Silent night. Pausing, he remembered his own creation, a poem penned a few years prior during his early days as a priest. It bore the title, Silent Night. Inspired, Father Joseph hurriedly descended the mountain, a newfound determination lighting his way. In that moment, he knew exactly how to fill the church with the gift of music. On the following morning, Father Joseph embarked on yet another walk, this time clutching his poem. With a clear destination in mind, he made his way to the neighboring village to meet his friend, Franz Gruber, the organist for St. Nicholas. Franz Gruber, taken aback by the presence of the priest on Christmas Eve in a locale far from home, was even more astonished when Father Joseph extended the poem to him. Under the night sky, Father Joseph and Franz Gruber positioned themselves at the altar of St. Nicholas Church. Father Joseph cradled his guitar, noting the perplexed expressions exchanged among the congregation. It was evident that the sight and sound of a guitar in a church, especially during the solemn midnight mass on Christmas Eve, the most sacred night of the year, were entirely unprecedented for the attendees. Father Joseph gently strummed a few notes on the guitar, and in unison he and Franz Gruber started to sing. Their voices resonated through the church, harmonizing with the choir on the chorus. The melody, crafted by Franz Gruber, complemented the sincerity and straightforwardness of Father Joseph's words. As the final notes dissipated into the night, a hushed moment lingered before the congregation erupted in applause. The sounds of hands clapping filled the church, signaling the villagers' genuine appreciation for the song. Father Joseph's ingenious plan to infuse St. Nicholas Church with music had triumphed. Several months later, the organ builder made his way to Oberndorf and stumbled upon the lyrics and music of Silent Night resting on the organ. The enchanting song captured his imagination, and upon his departure he carried a copy with him. Moved by the magic of the song, the organ builder shared it with 2 families of traveling singers residing nearby. These itinerant performers included Silent Night in their concerts across Europe, and before long the melody echoed far and wide, spreading the enchanting strains of the song to every corner of the world. In the present day, cathedral choirs and carolers around the globe, from New York to New Zealand, joyfully sing the humble melody that originated in an Austrian mountain church on a Christmas Eve nearly 2 centuries ago. The Legend of the Poinsettia. Maria and Pablo resided in a small Mexican village. Given that the Christmas celebrations in their home were modest in terms of gifts, the pair eagerly anticipated the joyous and festive atmosphere at the village church during the holiday season. In reverence to the birth of Christ, the church adorned a captivating manger that attracted crowds of spectators. Villagers traveled great distances to marvel at the nativity scene, presenting exquisite and valuable gifts for the baby Jesus. Observing the villagers bestow their offerings in the gentle hay surrounding the manger, Maria and Pablo experienced a sense of sorrow. They lacked the means to purchase gifts for their family or to offer a present for the baby Jesus. On a Christmas Eve, Maria and Pablo made their way to the church for the evening services, fervently hoping they could offer a meaningful gift. At that moment, a gentle, radiant light pierced through the darkness, and the ethereal silhouette of an angel manifested above them. Maria and Pablo felt a sense of fear, but the angel reassured them, directing them to gather some of the small green weeds flourishing by the road. The angel explained that they should take these plants to the church and position them near the manger as their offering to the baby Jesus. In an instant, as swiftly as she had appeared, the angel vanished, leaving Maria and Pablo standing on the road, gazing up into the darkened sky. Despite their confusion, the children, filled with excitement, collected large bunches of the green weeds and hastened to the church. Upon entering the church, the children attracted the attention of numerous villagers, who turned to observe them. As Maria and Pablo started arranging the weeds around the manger, some villagers couldn't help but laugh. They questioned each other. Why are those children placing weeds by the manger? Maria and Pablo began to experience a sense of embarrassment and shame regarding their gift for the baby Jesus. Despite these feelings, they stood resolutely near the manger, carefully positioning the plants on the gentle hay, following the instructions the angel gave them. Then, out of nowhere, the unassuming green leaves on the plant tops underwent a stunning transformation, changing into a beautiful shade of red that enveloped the baby in magnificent blooms. The once laughing villagers fell silent as they witnessed the green plants metamorphose into the exquisite, star-shaped, crimson flowers we now know as poinsettias. Observing the weeds blossom before their eyes, Maria and Pablo realized there was no longer any cause for shame. They had presented the baby Jesus with the only gift they could offer, and it turned out to be the most exquisite gift of all. A Christmas Prayer, written by Robert Louis Stevenson. Loving Father, help us to remember the birth of Jesus, that we may share in the song of the angels, the gladness of the shepherds, and the worship of the wise men. Close the door of hate and open the door of love all over the world. Let kindness come with every gift and good desires with every greeting. Deliver us from the evil by the blessing which Christ brings, and teach us to be merry with clear hearts. May the Christmas morning make us happy to be thy children, and the Christmas evening bring us to our beds with grateful thoughts, forgiving and forgiven, for Jesus' sake. Amen. Christmas Day in the Morning by Pearl S. Buck. He woke up suddenly and completely. It was 4 o'clock, the hour at which his father had always called him to get up and help with the milking. Strange how the habits of his youth clung to him still. 50 years ago, and his father had been dead for 30 years, and yet he waked at 4 o'clock in the morning. He had trained himself to turn over and go to sleep, but this morning it was Christmas. He did not try to sleep. Why did he feel so awake tonight? He slipped back in time, as he did so easily nowadays. He was 15 years old and still on his father's farm. He loved his father. He had not known it until one day a few days before Christmas, when he had overheard what his father was saying to his mother. "Mary, I hate to call Rob in the mornings. He's growing so fast and he needs his sleep. If you could just see how he sleeps when I go in to wake him up. I wish I could manage the farm alone." "Well, you can't, Adam." His mother's voice was brisk. "Besides, he isn't a child any more. It's time he took his turn." "Yes," his father said slowly, "but I sure do hate to wake him." When the boy heard these words, something in him woke. His father loved him. He had never thought of it before, taking for granted the tie of their blood. Neither his father nor his mother talked about loving their children. They had no time for such things. There was always so much to do on the farm. Now that he knew his father loved him, there would be no loitering in the mornings and having to be called again. He got up after that, stumbling blind with sleep, and pulled on his clothes, his eyes tight shut. But he got up. And then on the night before Christmas, that year when he was 15, he lay for a few minutes thinking about the next day. They were poor, and most of the excitement was in the turkey they had raised themselves and the mince pies his mother made. His sister sewed presents, and his mother and father always bought something he needed, not only a warm jacket, maybe, but something more, such as a book. And he saved and bought them each something too. He wished that Christmas he was 15, he had a better present for his father. As usual, he had gone to the 10-cent store and bought a tie. It had seemed nice enough until he lay thinking the night before Christmas. He looked out of his attic window. The stars were bright. Once, when he was a little boy, he had asked his father, "Dad, what is a stable?" "It's just a barn," his father replied, "like ours." Then Jesus had been born in a barn, and to a barn the shepherds had come. The thought struck him like a silver dagger. Why should he not give his father a special gift too, out there in the barn? He could get up early, earlier than 4 o'clock, and he could creep into the barn and get all the milking done. He'd do it alone, milk and clean up. And then, when his father went in to start the milking, he'd see it all done, and he would know who had done it. The boy laughed himself to sleep as he gazed at the stars. It was what he would do, and he mustn't sleep too soundly. He must have awakened 20 times, scratching a match each time to look at his old watch. midnight, and 1:30, and then 2:00. At 2:45, he got up and put on his clothes. He crept downstairs, careful of the creaky boards, and let himself out. The cows looked at him, sleepy and surprised. It was early for them, too. He had never milked all alone before, but it seemed almost easy. He kept thinking about his father's surprise. His father would come in and get him, saying that he would get things started while Rob was getting dressed. He'd go to the barn, open the door, and then he'd go get the 2 big empty milk cans. But they wouldn't be waiting or empty. They'd be standing in the milk house, filled. The task went easily for the boy, more easily than he had ever known it to go before. Milking for once was not a chore. It was something else, a gift to his father, who loved him. He finished. The 2 milk cans were full, and he covered them and closed the milk house door carefully, making sure of the latch. Back in his room, he had only a minute to pull off his clothes in the darkness and jump into bed, for he heard his father get up. He put the covers over his head to silence his quick breathing. The door opened. "Rob," his father called, "we have to get up, son, even if it is Christmas." "All right," said the boy sleepily. The door closed and he lay still, laughing to himself. In just a few minutes his father would know. His dancing heart was ready to jump from his body. The minutes were endless. 10, 15, he did not know how many. Then he heard his father's footsteps again. The door opened, and he lay still. "Rob!" "Yes, Dad?" His father was laughing, but sort of crying. "Thought you'd fool me, did you?" His father was standing beside his bed. "It's for Christmas, Dad." He found his father and clutched him in a great hug. He felt his father's arms go round him. It was dark, and they could not see each other's faces. "Son, I thank you. Nobody ever did a nicer thing." "Oh, Dad, I want you to know. I do want to be good and do good." The words broke from him of their own will. He did not know what to do. His heart was bursting with love. He got up and pulled on his clothes again, and they went down to the Christmas tree. Oh, what a Christmas, and how his heart had nearly burst again with shyness and pride as his father told his mother and made the younger children listen about how he, Rob, had got up all by himself. "The best Christmas gift I ever had, and I'll remember it, son, every year on Christmas morning, so long as I live." They had both remembered it, and now that his father had passed, he remembered it alone. That blessed Christmas dawn, when alone with the cows in the barn, he had made his first gift of true love. This Christmas, he wanted to write a card to his wife and tell her how much he loved her. It had been a long time since he had really told her, although he loved her in a very special way, much more than he ever had when they were young. He had been fortunate that she loved him. Ah, that was the true joy of life, the ability to love. Love was still alive in him. It still was. It occurred to him suddenly that it was alive because long ago it had been born in him when he knew his father loved him. That was it. Love alone could awaken love, and he could give the gift again and again. This morning, this blessed Christmas morning, he would give it to his beloved wife. He could write it down in a letter for her to read and keep forever. He went to his desk and began his love letter to his wife. The true story of World War I's Christmas truce, when fighting paused for the holiday, and over Christmas of 1914, singing and soccer broke out between British and German forces. Written by A.J. Baum and Volker Janssen, updated December 18, 2023, for the History Channel. On Christmas Eve, 1914, in the dank, muddy trenches, on the Western Front of the First World War, a remarkable thing happened. It came to be called the Christmas Truce, and it remains one of the most storied and strangest moments of the Great War, or of any war, in history. British machine gunner Bruce Bairnsfather, later a prominent cartoonist, wrote about it in his memoirs. Like most of his fellow infantrymen of the 1st Battalion of the Royal Warwickshire Regiment, he was spending the holiday eve shivering in the muck, trying to keep warm. He had spent a good part of the past few months fighting the Germans, and now, in a part of Belgium called Bois de Ploestiert, he was crouched in a trench that stretched just 3 feet deep by 3 feet wide. His days and nights marked by an endless cycle of sleeplessness and fear, stale biscuits and cigarettes too wet to light. Here I was in this horrible clay cavity, Bairnsfather wrote, miles and miles from home, cold, wet through, and covered with mud. There didn't seem the slightest chance of leaving, except in an ambulance. At about 10 p.m., Bairnsfather noticed a noise. I listened, he recalled. Away across the field, among the dark shadows beyond, I could hear the murmur of voices. He turned to a fellow soldier in his trench and said, "Do you hear the Boches, Germans, kicking up that racket over there?" "Yes," came the reply. "They've been at it some time." The Germans were singing carols, as it was Christmas Eve. In the darkness, some of the British soldiers began to sing back. Suddenly, Bairnsfather recalled, we heard a confused shouting from the other side. We all stopped to listen. The shout came again. The voice was from an enemy soldier, speaking in English with a strong German accent. He was saying, "Come over here." One of the British sergeants answered, "You come halfway, I come halfway." What happened next, in the years to come, would stun the world and make history. Enemy soldiers began to climb nervously out of their trenches and to meet in the barbed wire-filled no-man's land that separated the armies. Normally, the British and Germans communicated across no-man's land with streaking bullets, with only occasionally gentlemanly allowances to collect the dead. But now there were handshakes and words of kindness. The soldiers traded songs, tobacco, and wine, joining in a spontaneous holiday party in the cold night. Bairnsfather could not believe his eyes. Here they were, the actual practical soldiers of the German army. There was not an atom of hate on either side. And it wasn't confined to that one battlefield. Starting on Christmas Eve, small pockets of French, German, Belgian, and British troops held impromptu ceasefires across the Western Front, with reports of some on the Eastern Front as well. Some accounts suggest a few of these unofficial truces remained in effect for days. Descriptions of the Christmas truce appear in numerous diaries and letters of the time. One British soldier, a rifleman named J. Redding, wrote a letter home to his wife describing his holiday experience in 1914. My company happened to be in the firing line on Christmas Eve, and it was my turn to go into a ruined house and remain there until 6:30 on Christmas morning. During the early part of the morning, the Germans started singing and shouting, all in good English. They shouted out, "Are you the rifle brigade? Have you a spare bottle? If so, we will come halfway, and you come the other half." Later on in the day they came towards us, Redding described, and our chaps went out to meet them. I shook hands with some of them, and they gave us cigarettes and cigars. We did not fire that day, and everything was so quiet it seemed like a dream. Another British soldier named John Ferguson recalled it this way. Here we were, laughing and chatting to men whom only a few hours before we were trying to kill. Other diaries and letters describe German soldiers using candles to light Christmas trees around their trenches. One German infantryman described how a British soldier set up a makeshift barbershop, charging Germans a few cigarettes each for a haircut. Other accounts describe vivid scenes of men helping enemy soldiers collect their dead, of which there were plenty. One British fighter named Ernie Williams later described in an interview his recollection of some makeshift soccer play on what turned out to be an icy pitch. The ball appeared from somewhere, I don't know where. They made up some goals, and one fellow went in goal, and then it was just a general kickabout. I should think there were about a couple of hundred taking part. Just how many soldiers participated in these informal holiday gatherings has been debated. There is no way to know for sure, since the ceasefires were small-scale, haphazard, and entirely unauthorized. A Time magazine story on the 100th anniversary claimed that as many as 100,000 people took part. Today, a memorial stands in England's National Memorial Arboretum, commemorating the Christmas truce. It was dedicated by Prince William of England. On the 100th anniversary in 2014, the English and German national soccer teams staged a friendly match in England in remembrance of the soldiers' impromptu soccer games in 1914. What stands out most today, however, are the memories of the soldiers themselves, preserved in their own penmanship. One rifleman of Britain's 3rd Rifle Brigade recounted a German soldier saying, "Today we have peace. Tomorrow you fight for your country. I fight for mine." As for Britain's Bruce Bairnsfather, he summed up the distinct historic moment this way: "Looking back on it all, I wouldn't have missed that unique and weird Christmas day for anything." I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I think that story is a nice place to leave it as hope that mankind can return to peace. Our quote for the day is Luke 2:14. "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men." Thank you for giving your time to listen to this episode of Mindset Matters, The Courage to Continue. You are of value. You are loved. You are not alone. If you are struggling with thoughts of suicide, help is available. Dial 988 24 hours a day for free confidential support. If you are not in crisis but need support, please feel free to reach out to me at the email mindsetmatterspodcast1@gmail.com. Again, that's all lowercase, mindsetmatterspodcast1@gmail.com. Remember to change your day by what you think and say. We'll see you next time.